Well, all right, just a quick video today just to explain a few things and talk about the future of the channel, things like that. So I have not made a video in a long time, well, relatively a long time for me, probably a couple weeks. But anyway, so here, first the announcement. So if many of you started following me probably about a year ago at this point, and so you know a little bit about my history. If you've watched my videos, you know that I've talked about living in Vermont, pastoring a small church, things like that. Well, I've decided to resign as a pastor from my church. And it's not, I did not disqualify myself or anything like that. In fact, I'm still a member of this small church for the time being. And but I'm not going to tell you the whole story about why I did it. But suffice it to say that it has to do with my social justice content. Definitely does. It also has to do with the 11th commandment. If you don't know what that is, that's okay. You don't have to know what it is. And you might be like, 11th commandment? I thought you weren't. I didn't think you were a Southern Baptist, and I'm not. I'm not a Southern Baptist. However, there is a prominent Southern Baptist who took issue with my content and was able to convince my co-elder at the time, now he's my pastor, that criticizing people who claim the name of Christ, even if they're spreading, you know, a false message or a false teaching or a false gospel, is not correct. You shouldn't do it. And so, so I've resigned. And the reason I'd resigned is not because I think I've done anything wrong. I don't think I have. But I did it for the local church, for the unity of the local church, because the reality was that I was not willing to pastor the church on my own. And if I continued to pastor the church and I continued to hold the positions that I hold publicly, then the co-elder was going to resign from the church and the church would have been over. The only solution that allowed my church to continue meeting on Sundays as a body was for me to resign. And I came to that decision of my own volition. It might not have been the right decision. Honestly, it might not have, and I understand if you want to criticize me for it. But you know, I was thinking about, you know, other people besides myself. And so anyway, that's the situation. So I'm no longer an elder at a church. I hope you understand. I mean, I'm sure the whole story will come out at some point. But for right now, I just ask that you would just keep my family in prayer, my church in prayer. And all of that. I also just ask if you know people involved or anything like that, don't you know, reach out to anybody. Don't try to get any answers or solutions. I will say this though, if you have concerns that maybe I have disqualified myself and I'm under church discipline or something like that, feel free to contact my pastor about that. He will be glad to talk to you, and he'll be glad to explain that I have not disqualified myself. That's not why I resigned or anything like that. So that's my announcement. Now, the future of the channel, I want to talk about that. So I'm going to continue making videos. I have agreed with my pastor that as long as I'm a member of the church, I will not make a video criticizing the words of a fellow believer. I can't do that for very long. I don't think it's a legitimate requirement at all. And that's okay. That's a difference of opinion. And so I'm not going to, so for now, for the next week or so, I'm not going to do videos like that. I am going to continue doing videos like that because I don't think it's wrong. I think it's actually required at times. So just wanted to let you know what to expect in the short term. In the short term, I'm going to do a series of videos about some verses that I feel are important to the social justice conversation, verses that have kind of changed my perspective on things since the time when I started following Jesus to today. So I'm going to talk about some verses that I think you should know and you should really consider. And I'm also going to talk about some verses that I think are really, seriously being misunderstood in this whole debate. And so that's what I'm going to do, a little bit of teaching regarding some things that I find important. And that'll be in the short term. You know, that's not going to be my only content for forever, but in the next few days, next few weeks, things like that, that's what I'll be focusing on. I'm probably going to be leaving my church, unfortunately. And I probably don't really have a choice. I mean, I don't think the church, unfortunately, because of what's happened, the church probably won't be together for very long. Like I said, I resigned so that it would keep going longer, but I just don't see it going much longer than a few months, to be perfectly honest with you. So prayers for that. I mean, I hope it does, but I just don't see any way that it will. Anyway, but if I do leave and I decide to leave the church and join another church, that's when I will start making my regular content as well. One thing I did want to say at the end of this, though, one of the biggest complaints that people have about my content, and this is directly related to the reason why I resigned, is matters of tone, right? I don't have the right tone. I like what you say, but I don't like how you say it, things like that. And I totally understand why people might not like the way I say things, and I don't say things in a angry or aggressive or a mean tone all the time. It's just it's really reserved for the people that I think need it most, if that makes sense. But what I will say is that tone is important. I mean, before God, I have to strike the right balance. I have to make sure that I'm saying things in a way that'll be effective, that would be giving people the benefit of the doubt as much as possible, loving them, being gentle with them. But I have to do it in a way that is honoring to God. My tone is between Him and I. My tone is between Him and I. And so one of the things I've learned since I've been online and publicly saying things is that tone is very, very subjective. But it is important. So just because I'm saying it's subjective and, you can't judge my heart based on my tone, you know what I mean? That's not to say that it's completely unimportant. I have to have the right tone before God, obviously. I have to do what's honoring to God, and that's between God and me. You know what I mean? So if I say something in an aggressive way to Dr. Eric Mason or Thabiti Anyabwili or whatever, I want to make sure that I'm striking the right balance, but at the same time, I want to make sure what I'm saying is accurate. Because you might misinterpret my tone, but, what matters is my words. You know what I mean? God's going to judge me for my tone. God's going to judge me for my tone. I'm trying to be careful with it, and I think there are times when aggressive words are necessary, and there are times when they're inappropriate. Have I struck the right balance always? Probably not, but I'm certainly doing my best to do so. And so, anyway, that's the last thing I'll say. So that's my announcement. I'm no longer a pastor. Did not disqualify myself. Feel free to reach out to me if you want to find out a little bit more. The story, I'm sure, will come out at some point. If you need to talk to my pastor, if you're a supporter, like if you're a patron or something, and you want to make sure that you're not supporting someone who's been disqualified, feel free. I will give you my pastor's contact information. You can find out for yourself what's gone on. And short term, I'm gonna be doing some videos about some Bible verses, and long term, I will be back to regular scheduled content. But the Fight Laugh Feast Network content will remain the same. That's gonna continue going as it's been going. I hope you've been enjoying it. I really do. Hey, by the way, if you haven't considered joining the Fight Laugh Feast network as a member, I would urge you to do it. Use the show code ROBLES, ROBLES. We get a lot of really interesting content from some of the guys at Cross Politic and other shows as well that you'll have access to. You have access to all kinds of stuff. Plus, you get to support the content that you enjoy. So anyway, consider becoming a Fight Laugh Feast Club member, and I will see you in the next video.